The Eibster gives us chizuk, especially that we know that we're mamash at the end of Galus. We should be zeicha to tchias hamesim, take it from Yad Mamash. We're holding on page 9, 5 lines from the bottom of the page. So until now, the Maimah is based on Baruch Shas and Nissim, and the Rebbe Rashab is explaining what's a Nes, what's Nissim, something that comes from the Maila higher than Seder Shtalshalos. What is Seder Shtalshalos? So that's what we're learning until now. First, the Rebbe gave us a general picture that there is Olam, Shana, Nefesh, and then there's Shtalshalos. Shtalshalos, the way it's by a person. He has Seichel, Chachma, Bin Das. Then he has then he has the Midos. Then the Rebbe spoke about Seichel coming into different parts of the body, into the hand, into the feet. And he said the same thing is also in Olamais. There are many, many levels, myriads of levels. Now the Rebbe is going to say, go over to the Inyan of Nissim. I'm going to talk a while about the Inyan for Nissim. K'maykein hu b'madregas hanissim sheb'mo k'emahu shenasa b'yanes meir b'gila elkus mamash. Just like in the Beis Hamikdash, as we learned at the end of last week's shiur, there was Gili Elokus Mamash in Beis Hamikdash, and that was seen when we saw that the Aron did not take up physical space. And by the way, I just want to say as a parenthetic note, last week, when I was quoting the pasuk with the size of the Aron, I said I'm a Chaim v'chetzi, and I looked in the Maimer, it says I'm a Chaim. So I corrected myself, because that's what it says in the Maimer. But later I looked in the pasuk, and the pasuk does say I'm a Chaim v'chetzi. So why does it say I'm a Chaim in the Maimer? That the Aron was 2 amas long. It doesn't say, like it's written in pasuk, 2.5. So that's not my business to answer these questions. But I would just like to say something very important here. When a Rebbe says Chassidus, it's Torah Misinai. Someone was once standing near the Tzemach Tzedek when the Tzemach Tzedek was reading the Haftarah, and the Tzemach Tzedek said a word different than what appears in the Sefer. So a guy next to Tzemach Tzedek corrected him, and Tzemach Tzedek said, and he repeated the word, but how? The way he said it the first time. When a Rebbe does something, as daf hazoizayin, that's the way it's supposed to be. When a Rebbe says a maimer, that's Torah Misinai, like the story of the Rabbi Paritcher. We know that Rabbi Paritcher himself was someone who wrote Chassidus and said Chassidus, and he has Sfarim on Chassidus that we have from Rabbi Paritcher. So it was once after a maimer that the Tzemach Tzedek said, that Rabbi Paritcher went into the Tzemach Tzedek and was reviewing the points of the maimer, and then the Tzemach Tzedek said, no, you got it wrong. The pshat is like this. And Rabbi Hillel started to argue with the Tzemach Tzedek in pshat of the maimer that the Tzemach Tzedek said. And Tzemach Tzedek says, no, the pshat is hazoi. So he said to the Tzemach Tzedek, I'm sure in a way of kavod, respectfully, he says, listen, when you're saying a maimer, that's Torah Misinai, Shechina medaberes b'tach groinai. But after you finish saying the maimer, I can have the liberty to argue with you on the pshat of that, what you said. In other words, b'shas a Rebbe says, the Rebbe told the story, by the way. When a Rebbe says Chassidus, it's Shechina medaberes b'tach groinai, it's Torah Misinai. So over here it says Amasayim Arkai. That's a few lines earlier than what we're starting from. Azay Daf Stein. And whoever wants to learn Pshat can learn Pshat. But that's the way it's supposed to be. When the Rebbe writes something, it's correct. How does it fit in with our agenda, with our figuring out? Nicht alles muss man verstehen. Okay, let's get back to the Maimer. So talking about Nissim, the Rebbe brought about the Arein. That the Arein showed us Elokus Bigolui in the Beis HaMikdash. When you measure the Arein between the Arein and the right side of the wall and the left side of the Arein and the wall, it was 10 amas. Then you measured the whole Kodesh HaKadoshim from wall to wall, it was also 10 amas. Doesn't make sense because the Arein itself had its own measure of 2.5 amas. So if you took a measuring stick from wall to wall, it should have been 12.5 amas. It's only 10. Because the Gilu Yashchina was there, Atzmus was Nizgala there, like the Lashon is, Tzimtzim es Hashchina. Bein Shnei Badei Ha'arein, the Eibush was Megala, the Shechina over there. So the Arein did not take up space. So we see there is a union of Makoim that's not really Makoim. Because Elokus is Mizgala over there, it reveals itself and shows you what's Emes and Metzias. Any ness that happens in any place, Meir Boy Gile Elokus Mamash. Wherever that happens, if it's in Shushan Abira, if it's in the Midbar, when the Eibushter gives us the man, Kriyas Yamsuf, it's a place where Gilei Elokus becomes revealed. V'lachein, this also explains why a person chayiv levarech Baruch she'asa li nes b'makom hazeh. If a person passes a place where a miracle happened to him, he's supposed to say Baruch she'asa li nes b'makom hazeh. Why? It happened once. Make a shechayonu then, or Baruch she'asa li nes, and say make a suda seidah, and enough. The Rebbe says, at this place and at this time while the miracle is happening, at the moment when the miracle happened, Elokus is mamish revealed from above in a really way of Gile Elokus. But b'derech klal, a residue, a leftover gilui of that gilui remains in that place. So every time you come there, you should identify that gilui elokus, which is in a way of a rishon, just a residue, and therefore b'shalachein b'chol eish shabal sham tzarich levarech chulu. That's why every time you come there, you have to make a bracha. So we see that Gilui Elokus comes sometimes to a place which is least expected. In the Beis HaMikdash, it's a place which is mucham. It's set and prepared for a place of Gilui Elokus. But there are miracles that happen in other places. Ukamai inyan aman vaslav. Just like the man coming down for the Yid in 40 years in the Midbar and the Slav, the quails. There were mamish Nissim which were higher than Darkei Teva. Not like the sort of nest that the Rebbe mentioned at the beginning of the Maimer. There are some of them that are Malubish and Teva. This is higher than Teva Legamre, because what does a Midbar have to do with man? Or Slav. It's not something it can produce physically. It's higher than Teva. Like the Rambam writes in Moira Nevuchim, that the place where these miracles happened, it's not that it was a place like you have a tree and the Eibishter makes that the fruits should grow out quick. It's a place which is barren, a wilderness, not shaykh to food or to slav, and it comes. That's a nest l'mayla mederach hateva, which means gila elokus took place in the midbar. Now the Rebbe is going to go over to another subject, but in continuation of this, they're talking about a place absorbing a gili elokus. Rebbe says that's what happened in Matan Torah. Matan Torah brought a gili elokus to the world. Where? In Har Sinai, in the Midbar. And it affected so strongly that the Rebbe is going to soon say that the entire half of the world's hemisphere became permeated with that Getlachkeit, with that Elokus. It affected it. What's about the second part of the hemisphere, like America? That's what the Rebbe is going to talk about now. He's going to bring something from the Alter Rebbe, a letter that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to the Rebbe about it. We'll soon get to it. In the half of the hemisphere upon which we live, where do we live? The Rebbe is talking from Russia. So in Russia, there are more Giluyim than the other side of the hemisphere. It's on this side of the hemisphere where the Giluyim of Matan Torah took place. Hashem Havai al Har Sinai. U'k'meikena Giluyim de Beis Hamikdash. Everything took place over here. So which side of this physical world got more kedusha, so to speak? The part where Matan Torah was. But the Rebbe is going to say that it's a little shver, a little difficult to really make it so tangible and to distinguish between one half of the earth and the other side of the earth. It's a little difficult. To put it in such tangible terms that the upper hemisphere, the lower hemisphere, that we should say, that dafka over here, the Gili Oid is taking place and not elsewhere. It's a little difficult to say. But, nevertheless, the Rebbe is going to bring Alter Rebbe said so. He made such a statement. The Rebbe Rashab says, my father also wrote so. The Frierdiker Rebbe is writing. The Rebbe Marash, in this Maimer, he also writes so. That it was only limited to one half of the hemisphere. Not that there's nothing on the western side in America. But more Gilui was on the side where Matan Torah took place. How do we understand it? Talking about something Ruchni is Gilui Elokus, how can you limit it to such space and areas? Says the Rebbe, Ach be'emes, Yechoylin la'havin hadavar gam al pi seichel. You could also understand this al pi seichel. Why? We're talking about not a Eir Makif. If you're talking about a Eir Makif, Soviv Kolom goes everywhere equally. Russia, Midbar, Beis Hamikdash, America, everywhere equally. That's Soviv Kolom. Talking about an Eir Pnimi, Matan Torah. L'chein shaykh loima, by loima, shekam dafka meir agiloi, v'loi b'makam acher chulu. Therefore, it is okay to say that this Gili Or Pnimi is in a specific place, because you're talking about Pnimius. Amar HaKosev, the Kol Or Pnimi tzarach shia keli alav chulu. As soon as you say the word Or Pnimi, you mean that there is a keli that's receiving it. Because if it's not receiving it, then back to Makif. It's only encompassing it, it's surrounding it. I want to mention something that was here. The Rebbe says, Shekain Omer Rabbeinu Agadol, that the Alter Rebbe said so, that Matan Torah affected that side of the hemisphere versus the other side of the hemisphere, what we call maybe the western side of the hemisphere. So I want to quote a letter that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to the Rebbe, to our Rebbe. I'm going to read just a few words of it, because we're not learning the subject right now. So the Rebbe writes, it's printed in Sefer Maimorim, Tafshin Ches. It's also noted on the bottom of the page. If you look in your Maimer, bottom of the page, he tells you a few places where this is coming from. So the Rebbe writes to the Rebbe. I think this was Tav Reish Tzadik Vav or Tzadik Gimel, I'm not sure. But mine al sheiloscha, Leimard. I'm going to answer your question. The Rebbe wrote to the Frierdiker Rebbe that I heard that they say in the name of the Alter Rebbe that in America is nish geweh Matan Torah. There was no Matan Torah in America. And he's asking the Frierdiker Rebbe, can you please explain this? And the Frierdiker Rebbe writes like this. The shmua that you heard b'shem the Alter Rebbe about America regarding the Gili of Matan Torah, that is true. That is correct. But in the terminology that you're using, you're saying Ba'America lo haya Matan Torah, this is incorrect. The Rebbe uses the lashon meshubashu. That means it's written mistakenly. It's not correct to say Ba'America lo haya Matan Torah. And let me explain it to you. And then the Rebbe gives a long Hagdama, a long introduction in this letter, till he gets finally to the point. And I'll say it b'kitzer. There's a Maimer that's brought from Tav Kuf Samach Beis, from the Alter Rebbe, that it was written by the Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe and his brother Reb Moshe. And it says, Lahavin Kushiyas HaTechanim. There is a question of the astronomers. Tzemach Tzedek also brings it, and it says like this, that Tav Kuf Samach Beis, the Alter Rebbe said, let's understand the kasha of the astronomers, that since the earth is circular, it's like a ball, like an apple. So why the people who live in America don't fall off the ground? They're standing upside down from us. We're in Russia. And the people standing in America are standing on bottom of us. Their feet is facing up. Their heads are facing down. Why don't they fall into the sky that's beneath them? So why don't they fall? That's the question that the Alter Rebbe is quoting from the big philosophers, astronomers. And the Alter Rebbe says, Saguta Kasha, l'chayra. And what they answer, they say, because of gravity. There's a mice of gravity, so everything pulls its side. The source of the elements draw its element back to it. So because of gravity, they're stuck. They don't fall. They stick to earth. But the Rebbe says, Aval zeh einoi emes. Whether this means there's no such thing as gravity, that's not what I'm going into. But he says, this is not the Siba. The Siba, why they're not falling? Because the sky on top of them is also a sky. And the Rebbe says like this, that the real teretz, the teretz ha'amiti, that there are 9 galgalim around the world. That means they are like spheres. 9 spheres. The Rambam talks about it in Sefer Hamada. Where do the 9 spheres come from? From a level that's called igulim. When you talk about an eagle, a circle, there is no up and down. There is no top and bottom. And that's why the people who are underneath us, who are opposite of us, their rakia is above them, just like our rakia is above us, and the earth over there is beneath them, beneath their rakia. It's a whole arichos. I'm not, as I said, I'm not going into it, but over there is where the Alter Rebbe talks about whether the Gilui of Matan Torah took place, also affected America. Again, you can look on the bottom of the page of this mimer, and you'll see the Madam Akaimos, where this mimer of the Alter Rebbe is brought. Okay, let's go weiter. Kol panim. So we see that Or Pnimi affects a place in a pnimistic way. Not in a chaynistic way, but a pnimistic way. And that's why it has to be a keli. And where did it affect? According to what we're learning now, that part of the hemisphere. Once we talk about Or Pnimi, the Rebbe is going to tell us how powerful Or Pnimi is and how it has to do with tshuva. V'hinei Or Pnimi yadua the magia Pnimi is v'atzmas Ein Sof Baruch Hu mamash. Or Pnimi is something that reaches so high till atzmos. K'maya tshuva. The Rebbe brings an example of tshuva. It reaches till the highest level of makif, but the pnimius of the makif. If you're talking about only the external part of the makif, that's a level where light and darkness are equal. And therefore, as the Rebbe is going to say, from there you get a slicha, or mechila, the kapara. From chitzaynis hamakif, a person can get forgiveness. Because over there is kachshech hakayra. He did a sin, he did a mitzvah. But in order that the averis should turn into zachiyos, for that you need to reach higher. It's not enough chitzaynis hamakiv, you need pnimius hamakiv. But first let's see what the ha'ara of the Frierdiker Rebbe. This is what the Frierdiker Rebbe is writing. You should know from chitzaynis hamakiv hurakin yin slichas avoynos shavin nislach loy. From chitzaynis hamakiv, you could only attain a slicha. You could get a slicha and a kapara that the Eibishter forgives you. Avoliyah is doinis nasik kazachis mamash. To have such a thing that you can't get so simple. How do you get it? Hayidei mashat shuva Magia b'pnimis hamakif. You have to reach pnimis hamakif. How does a person reach pnimis hamakif? Says the Rebbe, through tshuva. What kind of tshuva? The Alter Rebbe in Tanya, Perek Zayin, explains what are the two levels of tshuva. One that reaches Chtzenis HaMakif, that gets you forgiveness, and one that gets you even higher, Pnimis HaMakif, that's Doinis Nasin L'Kirzachis. How is that accomplished? Says the Alter Rebbe, when a person does tshuva, may ahava, then his aveiros are forgiven. They're erased. What if he does it from ava rabba? Then it's such a strong ava that it causes doinos nasan lekazachias. Why should it be so? Why should it be that a person's aver should turn into mitzvahs? Maybe you say you take a person parked on the wrong side of the road and the policeman gave him a break, or the judge gave him a break and ripped up the ticket. But you should get a check in the mail and say, hey, you parked on the wrong side of the road, I'm giving you $100. Why? So the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Perek Zayin, that a Bal Tshuva, when does he do Tshuva? Because he was so far in the darkness. He was be'eret sea of its halmavas. And he felt the bitterness of being far from Hashem. Why did he feel so bitter? Because of his aveiros. He did so many sins that he finds himself in a place which is called like Midbar, a place of klippos. And this became like a springboard to encourage him to get close to Hashem. So because those aveiros are, so to speak, the cause of him doing tshuva, so what are these aveiros? Until now, it does tshuva, they're bad. But if these aveiros are causing him to become good, so these become like tools to bring him to Kedusha. And because these aveiros are causing him that thirst, that yearning for Hashem, therefore these aveiros became a good vehicle. They became a good tool. They became toiv. They became transformed to zachios. That's what how the Alter Rebbe explains in Perek Zayin. And that's why b'makim shebali tshuva imdim, afilu tzadikim gemura meinim chayim lamed sham, where a tzaddik gamur is always close to Hashem. He never feels the thirst. It's like the difference of two people who are very thirsty. Let's say they're exactly the same amount of thirst. One is in a city where water is obtainable, and one is in a wilderness where there is no water. Who panics more? Who feels the thirst more? Not the one in the city. Even though he might be even thirstier, but he doesn't feel it because he's close to water. He feels thirsty, yes, but the one in the midbar feels it more. The Bal Tshuva feels the need to get close to Hashem much more than a tzaddik. That's why Bal Tshuva stand higher than a tzaddik. That's why he reaches Pnimius Hamakif. He reaches so high. Where do we know this from? This comes from the Torah. V'zeh gufa she'tshuva me'eles hi atzas ha'Torah v'ha'Torah b'chinas pnimius dafka. We're talking all about Torah, which is pnimius, pnimi, because we're talking about how Matan Torah affected, in a pnimistic way, it affected the world. Where does Torah come from? Chachma. V'chachma hu madreges hamoichin shehem bechinas pnimius. When we're talking about chachma, we must be talking about something which is pnimiustic, because it's moichin. Moichin is understanding, something which you absorb inwardly. Ubefrat madreges hachachma ba'atzma. Not just the way chachma comes down, the way chachma is in its etzem. Ikra hu bechinas pnimius. That's the main thing of chachma. It's pnimius. Amar HaKosev, the comment. V'lachein inyana bechinas haskala b'nekuda chulu. At that level, the chachma is in a way of a nekuda. So what do we see from here? That's what Torah tells us. Through tshuva, we can erase everything. Through tshuva, we can reach pnimius hamakif. And the Rabbi continues talking about the yom of tshuva. There's no such thing as a punishment if a person didn't sin. But we can wipe away the sin. What does it mean, ein misa b'lei chet? That if a person, chas v'shalom, did a chet, that brings a misa b'dei shemayim, or whatever it is, that is his kapara. So that means he gets forgiven. Amar HaKosev l'hoyer me bava basra gimel meisu be'et yechulu. There's a Gemara in Bava Basra where it says 3 people. Actually, the Gemara says there are 4, but the Rebbe quotes here 3. 3 people that died not because of sin. They only died because of the Eitzah of the Nachash. Because the Nachash caused Chet Eitzadas, it brought Misa to the world. Who are the 4 people that really didn't have to pass away, but they passed away just because Chet Eitzadas? It says in the Gemara, 4 people: Binyamin, the son of Yaakov; Amram, the father of Moshe; Yishai, the father of David; and Kilav, the son of David. These 4 people. And there's no such thing, a person suffering, unless he did Aveda. So that's an order. In other words, if I took away my sins, I won't have to suffer, because I'll reach Pnimis Hamakiv, or at least Chtzainis Hamakiv will take away the Averis. Amar HaKosev l'ha'ir me'inyin ifashpesh yitle chulu. This is a lashon that's brought in Gemara, that if a person, something happened to him, he shouldn't say it's just a coincidence, but yifashpesh b'maisav. He should check his deeds. What if he didn't find anything? Yitle, he should blame it on bittul Torah. V'cheino emes, bittul Torah yesh. That leimet schus. That person might be melamed schus. Yishloel halimut schus v'yimtza. Stop looking for justifications, but find that the person has to correct something. V'kame shmaya galya. Before heavens, everything is revealed. That's why the person got his punishment. This is written in shorthand by the Frierdiker Rebbe, a comment that belongs in this mimer. Weiter. But Torah tells us that tshuva helps. Where does tshuva reach? Tshuva pnimius hamakif. You can reach pnimius hamakif. It's so powerful. Dafka through the inyan of tshuva. You don't need much hard work. Everyone can. All you have to do is a hiru tshuva. There's a halacha that if a person went to a woman and he was mekadesh her, he said, "Harei at mekadeshesli." He said to a woman, that she's mekudeshes to him, almanas, on a condition of so and so. So if he fulfills the condition, she's married to him. If he doesn't fulfill the condition, then she's not married to him. What if it was a Rasha Gamur, a Rasha, who said to her that she's becoming married to him on the condition that he becomes the Almanah Shani Tzad Gamur, that I'm a Tzad Gamur. So you would think, of course, she's not married to him. Says the Gemara, no. She is married misafek. She is possibly married to him. How? He's a Rosh Gamur. So the Gemara explains because Shema Hirutshuva Belibai. Maybe for one split second, this Rosh Gamur had a thought of tshuva. And if he had a thought of tshuva, he's still a Rosh Gamur, no? No. He had a Hirut tshuva. So for that second, he transcended the level of Rosh Gamur, and he became a Tzad Gamur. The Rebbe brings this many times as proof. How long does it take for a person to do tshuva? 1 second. One Hirut tshuva. Like the Zohar brings, B'shait chada or b'riga chada. 1 moment a person just have charata. That's it. Who's holding you back? And you can have right away become a tzad gamur. So that's what he's saying. L'chayra, this is the pshat here. Hakol d'chaylim l'kabel. Mashenkel l'pnimius hamakiv. To reach pnimius hamakiv, that takes avarabba. L'zeh tzrichem avoida. And what kind of avoida is this? V'avoida hu atshuva. That's avoida of doing teshuva, but on the level of avarabba. Because as the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Zayin, avot tshuva loy me avazu. Ein zedoinus nasan lekazachiyes. That means if you didn't do teshuva me avarabba, and we're not talking now to explain what's avarabba. We just got a glimpse of it from Tanya, that it's such a strong ava that came because of the Averis. The Averis pushed him to get to a place of light. Where do we get this eitz of tshuva? The eitz is zugufa mavor b'toyder shehi b'chinas pnimius. So this eitz itself is explained in Torah, and what's Torah? Torah's pnimius. This is all getting back. Was Matan Torah also in America, or only on the side of the hemisphere where Matan Torah was? Because Matan Torah is a union of pnimius. Therefore, it affects a specific place. When we say Hu Hayra, this proves us, it shows us how bechinas hapnimi shemagir bechina b'madregs ha'atzmutz mamash or pnimius eirein seif Baruch Hu. It reaches such a high place in Atzmus. Nevertheless, says the Rebbe, getting back to Matan Torah, whether it's limited to that hemisphere or not, because Torah is our pnimi, it's okay that we can say, therefore, it makes sense to say that the oil of Matan Torah reached that hemisphere, but not the second half. Not anymore. What does the Rebbe mean to say? That he's explaining the Rebbe Rashab's words. Since it's in the Torah where we learn about the Eitz of Tshuva, this shows us that grasping Torah is in the level of that makif. And what's Pnimius HaMakif that we reach by Tshuva P'Nabarabba? Humadrega Hayoisenailis. It's the highest level. Kiyesh Hemadregos, as we know, there are 5 levels. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama are Pnimium. Then we Seichel Amidas. That's Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. V'chaya Yechida are Makifim. It says in Medrash, Chamisha Shemais Nikru'ula, that we find in the Torah that our Neshama was given 5 names: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. And they're not all corresponding to the same level, but rather 5 different levels of our Neshama. Every Yid has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, which is the level of Seichel and Midas, Koiches HaPnimiyim. And then there's Chaya Yechida. That's already Koiches Makifim. In Yechida itself, Upnimis Yechida, Hulamayla b'madregim Upnimis Naran. The Pnimius of Yechida is higher than the Pnimius of our Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. So what do we see here? That we're talking all about the level of what's Pnimius. The Torah, B'chol Malkaim, He B'chinas Pnimius. Wherever you talk about Torah, it's always B'Pnimius. Gam b'madrega hayois hanailos. It is in a level of Pnimius. Umikol Malkaim, Sharsha Gam B'Pnimius Hamakiv, Shu Pnimius V'atzmas Ein Seif Baruch U'kamoi Ano Emlechul. It's a level which is Pnimius V'atzmos. It reaches the highest level. What it means, U'kamoi Ano Emlech, I don't know. As I said, this is a note from the Frierdiker Rebbe. Everything is in short. I don't know what it means over here. Everyone can explain it their way. Now let's get back to the union of the way Nissim take place and the union of Makayim in Olam Hazeh. Based on what we explained until now, we explained 2 things. Olam, space, they're kalim for oir. The nefesh, that's the highest that the Eibishter puts into the worlds. The olam, vishana, v'nefesh, hadroima mailas mamash. We're going to, as the Rebbe is going to explain a little later on in the Maimer, not right here, but towards the bottom of this page, he's going to introduce the union of Shana, of time. Till now, we only talk about space, Olam, and Nefesh, Chayas. But we didn't talk about Shana yet. The Rebbe is bringing in Shana here to say these 3 things of Ashan, Olam Shana, reaches in all levels, on all madregas. Adroim Amailus Mamash, Ukmoy Beganeidan Elyon, like in Ganeidan Elyon, Shubivriya, Ki Ganeidan Atachtain Uvasiya. We should know Ye Sham Aliyos Rabbis Le'en Ketz Mispar Klal. There are unlimited amount of aliyas in Ganeidan, Ukmaimer, like the Chazal say, Tzadikim ein lai menucha, lai ba'olam hazeh, v'loi ba'olam haba, shenemar yelchem and chayil al chayil. They're always marching higher and higher, which is again bringing out the union of Ishtalshalus, that there are levels upon levels upon levels. Shebederach klal, b'chol yom yesh gimel aliyas. Every day there are 3 aliyas, sheyuduyim are known, hayde gimel tfilos, Shachris, Chulu, every tefillah that we daven, there's also union of Aliyas Lamaila. B'chol tefillah gufa, ish Aliyas Rabbis. In each tefillah itself, there are many levels and many elevations. The ha'avis. Just imagine the avis are there. Shem Yosem Megimel Alafim Shana Began Eden. You know how many madregas they went up already? They're over 3,000 years in Gan Eden. Every day they go higher and higher. They go in Olam Shana Nefesh. They go higher in each one of them. Even though what's Gan Eden? Gan Eden is a shine of Atzilus in Bria. Nevertheless, generally speaking, Madregas Habria. Gan Eden is a level of Bria. I don't understand, because earlier, 5 lines from the top, it says, Gan Eden Elyon Shku Bivria, Gan Eden Elyon. Now he's saying, he's adding that Gan Eden is Atzilus shining into Bria. The Liyos Bivria, who begimel Madregas Elu the Elam Shana Nefesh, who Kmekenyesh Madregas Elu Adrema Milas Mamash. In any case, the fact that we're saying that it's Oid HaAtzilus come to Bria means that that's what the Gili Oid is of Gan Eden. Although generally it says that Gan Eden is in Bria. Gan Eden Elyon is in Bria, and Gan Eden Tachton is in Yetzirah. Ach, l'chayrein move on. Masharin is bar la'el. We still have to understand this. The base hamikdash heiru oires vigiluyim madregos hayos gavoyos in the base hamikdash was such a great gili oir. Such oiros. And what did we say is oiros? Nefesh, right? We said it's nefesh. Oilam is the keli, and nefesh is the oir. Yet such giluyim oiros, u'k'merkin ba'asina beis matan toira, mikol makayim nisbar shezo b'chinas nefesh. How can we call this with such a simple word as nefesh? The eichef shaloimer al giluyim nailam kazu sheimrak b'madregas nefesh levad. Nefesh is the lowest of the 5. So how can we say that all these Giluyim that were in the Beis Hamikdash, and Matan Torah, we're saying this is in the category between Olam Shana and Nefesh. This is Nefesh. Nefesh is the lowest level. So the Rebbe is going to tell us Nefesh has 2 definitions. Nefesh in a broader perspective means nefesh bechlal, which can even be a very high level. And then there's nefesh, which is one of the 5 levels of our neshama. There are deis echsidus. What is this level of the nefesh? Lifamim. Sometimes we find matzinu shenefesh hu nikra ispashtus achayis shal nefesh bilvat. It's a level of ispashtus achayis nefesh. Just like when we talk about the 5 levels, what do we have that enters our body? Nefesh, ruach, neshama. So the nefesh is talking about this, the life that we have in our body, that we're alive. The nefesh is there. So that's one definition of nefesh. Like in the 5 madregas, Hare nefesh, hu Hashem eslabish v'dam haguf, achi yoyse b'chayis b'sari chulu. What is the level of nefesh in the 5 madregas? It's the lowest level that enters the blood to give us life. But upamavor, nefesh has way a different definition of a very high level. Ukinoi al nakuda ha'atzmis she nekuda chiyunis. It's a very, very high level, which is nekuda atzmis, kuda chiyunis, which is such a high level. She be'efshara lahachis es haguf. This brings, just like you said before, the chayis comes from that level of nefesh. It says this also gives lahachis es haguf. Hamar hakoysev laha'ir. What's vayinofash? It says shavas vayinofash. Vayinofash meloshin nefesh. Loshin menucha be'etzem. That it's a level of menucha be'etzem nefesh chaya. Hispashtus mebechinas chay be'etzem chulu. Again, this is very short. Bir davar zeh tolui hu lefi beis deis halalu. So now to explain, how do we say on the chayas of the world that it's only the level between olam shana nefesh, it's called nefesh? So he says, shalifi adei arishayna. According to the first explanation of Chassidus, that what's nefesh? The nefesh would like his pashtus of the nefesh into the body. Yuvan shekoy rakal ha'ara shemachayis ha'olam. Yeah, it's okay. We can say that the chayas that comes to the world is called nefesh, just like the nefesh that fills up our body is called nefesh, because it's only a ha'ara that comes in. Each world that comes to the level of the tzkeli. Olam covers over on the oir. And therefore it goes to each world according to how much it's supposed to reveal and how much it can handle. That's the first pshat. But if we're talking about the daya of the nefesh reaching the level of nekuda atzmis, oz efshar, then we can also say shegama toira nikra nefesh. We're even allowed to say that Torah is called by the name nefesh. Shari raisim chachma nafkas. Torah comes from chachma. B'chachma bechinas nekuda. Just like nefesh. The second explanation is nekuda atzmis. What's chachma? Also a nekuda. Nefesh shenekuda atzmis. That's why we can. It's okay to say nefesh on it. Nekuda atzmis gam etzatzei deishtashalos. Ubefrat mitzad madregas pnimis hamakiv. Especially if we're talking about the level of pnimis hamakiv, such a high level. Vezo beis madregos. Now we come to chazak minis chazek. We finish the parsha about the two madregas of olam and nefesh. And the next part of the Maimah is going to start about shana, about zman. So now we got up to olam and nefesh. I do want to mention one thing about when we talked about pnimis over here. So much pnimis. The starke shaila that Rebbe asked, why did the Eibishter mind that Yaakov will be megala the ketz to the Yidden? It says that the Shechina went away from him. He wanted to be megala the ketz. What would be wrong? And does that mean he was going to say Tavshin Pei Aleph? Does it mean he was going to say Yud Dalid Teves Tavshin Pei Aleph? Tes Vav Teves Tavshin Pei Aleph? Tes Zayin Teves Chas v'Shalom Tavshin Pei Aleph? What's the pshat? So there's a whole arichas here. One of the nekudas of the biur is the Eibishter can do it in two ways. The Eibishter can bring the geula in a way he just brings it, but then it's not going to be pnimius. He wants us to earn it. He wants us. We're not going to see how close it is. We have to work hard, but he wants it to be in a way of pnimius. It says the Alter Rebbe was able. I think the Vaditcheva said this. At Gekämpf Harecheren ganz Peterburg. He could have burn up the whole Peterburg and not have to go through jail and everything. But he wanted it to go through the Kalim of Teva. He wanted to be Pneumius. The whole thing of that we are now in Galus, because we have to work on our Pneumius. The Eibshter could give Gilui Oiros and everything and make a big bang, and Mashiach is Shenda. Right. And we already did enough. And Mashiach is Taka going to come. But why do we have to wait so long? Because now we're working on it. It takes the Avodah of Yidden. The Avodah of Yidden in Galus is much harder than the Avodah of Yidden in time of Geula. The Rebbe asks a shaila. It says in Gemara, in Mishnah, and the Chachamim Oimrim, why does it say Koili Mechayecha? Lahavi l'mois HaMashiach. That also in the days of Mashiach, we're going to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? Right now, when we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim in Krishma, every day, Ani Hashem Elikechem, Hashem Yetzias Mitzrayim, because I said Shema Yisrael, Shem Elikinu Hashem Echad, Einid Mulvadoi, V'ahavta, where are you? Where am I standing? I'm stuck. So I have to know that the Eibishter can help me get out of my own Mitzrayim, my own limits in Torah and mitzvahs. Everyone can go out of their Mitzrayim. So it's good to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim to see that Hashem helps us. When Mashiach comes, it's not going to be any more Mitzrayim, no more Medidas V'Agbalos, no more limitations. A Yid is only going to be one L'deis, it's Hashem. So why do we have to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim? So the Rebbe says in the Maimer of Yud Aleph Nissim, Tav Shalom Medalid, that when Mashiach comes, we're going to remember the geschmack that we had in standing by the Nisyonis of the time of Galus. There's a certain geschmack when a Yid passes a test. And that's such a great geschmack that we're going to remember it even when Mashiach comes. The good part of it. Now we're going to remember the Galus. Now we have to remember Mitzrayim. We're going to remember the Yetzias Mitzrayim. The geschmack that we have. When we earned our own medals by each Nisayan, and as we know, how much the Rebbe says, the biggest Nisayan now, and the biggest Avodah now, is Avodah Mitech Simcha. There's a Maimer that the Rebbe said, Yutas Kislev Tafshin Mem Vav, I think it is, or Mem Zayin. A Maimer where the Rebbe writes that in the times of the past, saying Tillim with tears, Tshuva with tears, was a big thing. Now, forget it. It's out the door. Not the Tillim, Chas v'Shalom. Not Tshuva. What's out the door is the tears. The Rebbe says now, everything is Metoch Simcha. And Simcha and B'tachin, that you don't even need to say Tehillim. It's so powerful, your Simcha and B'tachin, that you're way above that. Simcha breaks through old boundaries. The Rebbe says now we have to be permeated with Simcha, and the best Simcha that we can think about is Simcha Sago'ula. You know, this guy got a phone call from lottery headquarters that he won $100 million. You'll come to us. Now the office is closed for holidays. Come back next week. We'll pick up the money. How does this person feel? Does he feel lousy that he didn't win it yet? He feels so happy. He was just told the good news that he won it. He has to wait another moment. but he knows he has it. The Rebbe gave us Besuras HaGeula. The Rebbe said he needs a Melech Mashiach Ba, Ukvar Ba, Ki Yizman Geula Aschem. All we have to do is simple. Close our eyes, picture what we will feel like when we get that lottery money in our hand. In other words, close our eyes and picture that we're going to 770 to hear Chassidus from the Rebbe. Picture, you'll get a jolt in your heart. Something is going to move there. Wow, I'm Chaya. That's the simcha we should feel now. And the same thing with any test or any challenges or any bumps on the road. Let's think ahead. Think the way we are with good. And that's maybe the pshat of trach good, but sein good. Visualize that it's good, that right now you have good. It'll become good. I remember once I was talking about trach good, but sein good, and my daughter was like 3 years old or 4, 5. She said, if that's the case, Trach Mashiach wird sein Mashiach. I think with this we will conclude. I want to wish everyone a guten Shabbos, Shabbos Chazak. We should take advantage and strengthen ourselves now already. It's already Erev Shabbos, so we should have Shabbos and Menucha l'chaya ilamim through the Geula Shlema. Take of me ad mamash. Amen.